I will give an overview of the rainwater harvesting system that I set up at my home in Tempe, Arizona. So the desert is hot and dry for most of the year, but that doesn't mean that we don't get any rain. So let's do a calculation of how much rain we could potentially harvest from my 1,800 square foot roof with about half a foot of rain per year. So converting that to gallons, we get 6,732.5 gallons per year. So that's a significant amount of water. That would make a big difference to my garden. So I put together this system, starting with gutters. So they are the first thing you need to install if you're going to have a rainwater harvesting system. And connected to those gutters, I put 2 rainwater harvesting tanks, one on each side of my backyard. I didn't put any tanks on the front of my yard because I'm in an HOA and they would not like to see those tanks in the front. But I harvest quite a lot of water just with the back tanks. So let's take a look at the components of my setup. The first is the downspout. So that's what brings the water into the tank. Most people put a first flush filter, which I would have liked to have, but I just have the filtering bucket at the top of the tank, but you have to unscrew it to get in there and clean it out. Then the next part is the overflow pipe. So there's a lot of rain events that exceed the limit for filling up my tank, and then I need to direct that overflow water somewhere else in my garden, keep it away from the foundation of my house. Then there's the outlet. So that's what I use to connect my hose to water the garden or to fill up the watering can. Or you could connect it to an electric pump and get some more water pressure. Then we wait for a rain. And if it's enough to start saturating the roof and running off, then we can harvest in the tanks. The rainwater is better than the tap water here in Arizona for watering the plants because our tap water is very hard. It has a lot of minerals, and those minerals accumulate in the soil, and most plants do not appreciate that accumulation. So this soft, clean rainwater is better for growing those plants. Also, the hard water in Arizona tends to clog irrigation systems, so they can be a bit of a pain in the neck. You have to constantly redo the system. So let's calculate how much I could expect to harvest in a certain rain event. So if I got a 3/4 of an inch rain event and I harvest from a quarter of my roof, which is 450 square feet, I could expect to harvest up to 210 gallons, which is a full tank of water. Any more than that and it would just run out of my overflow. And then with that full tank of water, I can go and water my garden. Typically, I get several full tanks a year, maybe 4 or 5, and I use them all in my garden, and the plants love it. It's been very successful.